Well, hello guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Richard here and I'm so pleased to see you again today. You know, I probably couldn't have picked a worse day for this video, to be honest, because it's windy as anything. There's storm clouds in the background. Something is brewing here today, but never mind. What I'd like to do today is continue a bit of a mini series that I've been doing for the last, well, probably the last year or so, talking about gadgets and low-cost items that is going to help us immensely with our photography, and in my case, particularly nightscape photography. So, in the back of my car here, I have a box full of goodies, and nothing in this box would cost more than a few dollars. And I'm going to show you how I use all of this stuff to help me in my adventures out there under the stars. So a lot of what I'm going to be showing you today sort of centers around tripods, and having tripods that are nice and sturdy, and ways to sort of steady tripods, especially when you're not able to stay there with your tripod. For example, when you're doing time lapse, and I've had a few occasions where my camera has actually toppled over on the tripod because I've left it there and it's got windy like it is now, and the tripod hasn't been stable enough, or it's been too top heavy. So let me show you a couple of the gadgets I've got here with me, which I hope will help all of us in our photography adventures. I've got Velcro strips. Have a look at this, Velcro. I've got string, as you can see. I've got more Velcro. What else have I got here? I've got little plastic clamps. Now, remember, I said none of this stuff is expensive. I've got some glowing tape. Okay, I'll show you what I do with that later. What else have we got in here? Oh, Mozzie spray. Well, I'll tell you what, the Mozzies are vicious out here, so I really need the Mozzie spray, but that's got absolutely nothing to do with this video. All right, what else have we got here? Oh, you might remember I showed you these in another video, which is a little clamp to go on the bottom of my tripod legs. Now, I still use those, but it's just another option that I've used over the years to steady my tripod legs, and they work really well. And you might remember I've used this with some pretty heavy duty wind going on, a bit like it is today, and they are as solid as a rock. Now, these little clamps probably cost a little bit more than a few dollars, but it's another option I just happen to have in my bag here. All right, so let me show you a couple of the basic ideas that I have to use these Velcro strips on our tripods. Now, I know I'm going to be going over a little bit of ground here that I've covered before, but please bear with me. I want to show you these bags that are attached to a tripod, and you can put a stone weight in there. Stones, they call them stone bags for obvious reasons. But you know, the other thing that I do with this is I will put things that I need to use. For example, remote release triggers or batteries or something that I need to access very quickly, and they have that use as well. But these are only, you know, maybe about 10 bucks on eBay, and that's where I bought mine. And they attach onto the tripod leg here. You can put weight on that, which distributes the weight evenly across the three tripod legs and takes away from the top heaviness of the tripod. So I've talked about these before. I won't go on too much more today, but I still use this bag all the time, and because they're so cheap, I think they're an absolutely fantastic option for tripods. Now, every tripod is different to some degree. I've got two here which I can show you. This one has a center column, which I hate. I never use center columns in my tripods, but admittedly for video work in particular, it's very handy to have the center column that goes up and down. But of course, when you put your camera up on top of that center column, it's less rigid, and so I don't like that. I prefer a tripod like this one that just has a short center column. I can get it down nice and low. But let me show you this particular tripod. This is an Art Size AC80C, and I've got a couple of these. They're a carbon fiber tripod, and they're very tall. They go really tall, in fact, taller than me, which is fantastic. I never really need to use it that high, but if I want to get over a fence or something, that's fine. Now, it doesn't have a center column. It has a 65mm bowl head, and you can turn it around and get a level. Now, that's one of the things I absolutely love about this tripod. There you go, it's starting to rain. Isn't that just what we need in the middle of a video? Man, oh man. All right, so how do I use my Velcro? How do use my rope. What do I do in this particular case? All right. Well, this is where my clamp comes in. Now let me try and get this and show you. I've got a little plastic clamp, probably about 40, 50 cents at Kmart. Stick it on there like that. And then I have one of these are called a grunt Velcro strip. Wow, man, oh man. And it's got a hook on there. So what I do with that is hook it around the clamp, like that, bring it around the other side, and then you can see I've got a very sturdy, I can put all my weight on that. Oh, that is strong. And I can hang something from the bottom of the center of my tripod. Oh man, maybe it wasn't a good idea to come out here in the bush in the middle of a wind and rainstorm, but nevertheless, here we are. But I tell you what, it gives me an opportunity to get the cuppa out. I found these biscuits, Christmas Star shortbread cookies. These are sensational. And when you dunk them in the bicky into the tea, let it soak for a bit. All right, well, while it's still raining, I'm sitting in the car. I'll continue my discussion about tripods and Velcro and clamps. So some of you are probably thinking, well, I'm not sure I want to put a clamp like that with a bit of a serrated edge, as you can see, onto my good tripod, especially my carbon fiber tripod. Now, on this particular tripod, this little bit here is metal. So there's no marking, no problem with that at all. But on the legs of the tripod, yeah, they're carbon fiber. So you might think to yourself, well, I want to protect my legs a little bit from clamps and all sorts of things like that. So this is what I'm going to show you. I'll show you outside in a minute, hopefully. I've just put a piece of Velcro on there, and the Velcro just looks like that. It's just a Velcro strip that just tears off and tears on. And I wrapped it around the leg of the tripod, and then I can actually clamp onto that leg. Now I can do it on all of the legs. It doesn't matter where I have the Velcro, because what I'm looking for is a way of putting some sort of clamping device onto my tripod leg so that I can hang weight on it. And I'll show you. Well, I think the rain might have stopped, so let's go outside and I'll continue this video. Well, you know the old saying, it never rains but it pours, and that's exactly my situation here today. So I better get going before it starts up again. Now, as I was saying, the clamp can clamp onto my carbon fiber leg of my tripod quite easily with that Velcro strip. Now the Velcro just sits there, and all I've got to do is have a few of these little strips around. I can stick them on all of these legs. Now, as you can see, different diameter of the leg makes no difference at all. I can put it right down here at the bottom and wrap it around like so. I mean, it's Velcro. This stuff is cheap as chips. I bought a whole roll of it and I just cut it off into little lengths. So I wrap it around like that, get my clamp. Doesn't matter if it slides up and down, because when you put the clamp on, it holds everything tight. Now, I'm going to show you how I actually use this in the field. But essentially, when I've got that clamp on that leg and put weight on it, I can put an enormous amount of weight on that leg and it doesn't pull off. I'm pushing down on that as hard as I can. It doesn't come off. So there you go. All you need is a little clamp like that and a piece of Velcro, and Bob's your uncle. And this stuff is very cost effective. All right, now I am getting wet here, so we'll just see how we go. But let's just say I have my tripod here and I want to steady it so that it's not going to move or shake or anything else. So what I'm going to do is get my Velcro strip, which I've just got there, and let's just put it down on the bottom leg. So let's do it here. Oh man, I'm getting wet. Camera's dry, I hope. Put it there like that. Then I simply put my clamp on top of that leg, just down the bottom there, just something like that. And then all I have to do is find some rocks, sit them up there like that, and get the rocks around that leg. I've got a few more, just so the rocks will stay there, and pile them up, and away you go. Now that is not going to move. It's as simple as that. You know, that's just using a piece of, probably about a 20-cent piece of Velcro. All right, now I know I'll probably have a few doubting Thomases amongst you guys, and that's quite all right. There's nothing wrong with asking questions and perhaps saying, oh, I don't know about that idea. But you know, sometimes you can have something, especially if you're nice and close to the car like this, you can bring something that's pre-prepared. A sandbag, stick it over the clamp. Now that is as solid as a rock. There's no way knowing, if I had 2 or 3 of those on the tripod legs, there's no way knowing that this tripod is going anywhere. And sure, that's just a bag full of sand. You can make your own, and I'm going to show you something about that in a minute. All I've got is a clamp from a hardware store and a piece of Velcro. All right, so the next gadget I want to show you is this little thing here. It's a cord tightener. Now, a lot of you who go camping would know what this is. You simply put a rope through there and it jams into place, and you cannot pull that rope back through that loop. So you can tighten it, but you can't pull it back. And I'm going to show you how I would use this with a tripod. All right, so back to this center column arrangement. I'm going to put my clamp on the center column just like that. Grab my Grunt Velcro strap. You can see it there. Little strip. These are as strong as anything. I'm actually going to leave it done up for the time being. And I'm going to hook it around the back of that clamp, because what I'm doing here is trying to get the center of gravity right over the center as much as I possibly can of this tripod. And you can see there, that is as tight as anything. Now all I need to do now is put the clip cord tensioner on there, just like that. You can see where this is going, can't you? So all I need to do then is put some weight onto this rope. So I'll just use my little weight bag here as an example, but you could use anything, rocks, whatever you've got. All I need to do is basically tie that on there like that, so that's reasonably taut. It doesn't matter at this point in time if it's not, because what I'm going to do is tighten it up by using the cord tensioner. That's the whole point of this thing. So all you do is you drag that through until the weight of that bag is almost off the ground, but I don't want it swinging. So I'm going to make sure that whatever the weight I have here is rigid, but not swinging, because I don't want to hit any of these tripod legs. And there you go. I've got a really heavily weighed down tripod. That's not going anywhere. It's on a clamp at the top here, just with some cord, just like that. Now I can hear a lot of you guys grinding away there thinking, well, I don't carry sandbags around with me. I could be anywhere on the top of some hill, and that's exactly what happens to me all the time. So what I do is I look around the bush, in this case, hunk of wood, just like this. Look how heavy this thing is. I'm going to drag that over and use that as my weight instead of the sandbag. And there you go. Now I've got this exactly where I want it to be. Just a hunk of wood hanging down below my tripod, rigid as anything. And you can use whatever you've got at your disposal. Now, a lot of the places I go to have wood everywhere, or perhaps rocks like this. So besides what I showed you before, what can we do with rocks? I mean, they're pretty hard to handle because they're a bit smaller. You might have big rocks, but how do I hang a rock down underneath this thing? Well, let me show you. All right, so continuing with my theme of dirt cheap accessories for our Nightscape photography, how much do you reckon this costs? It's a Coles groceries bag, virtually nothing, because I've got a heap of them in the car here I carry with me. You can see where I'm going with this, can't you? I'm going to fill up this bag with my rocks and simply hang it down underneath the tripod using the same method I just showed you. This thing, I can just screw it up and basically put it in my pocket. It weighs nothing, so I can go anywhere with this. I can take a whole heap of these with me, and I can take more than one. In fact, the other thing I want to show you is this, which I already have in my car. It's a rubbish bag. It's one of those bin liners. Now, what I tend to do often is use bin liners like this, because they're very strong in comparison to the bag, and I might put the rocks inside the bin liner, just like that, and weigh that down with the rocks, so that the bin liner is actually getting more abuse than the bag. I mean, I could just use that, just tie it off at the top. Now that's pretty heavy. I can just put that under my tripod, and when I'm finished, I just, whoa, tip the rocks out like that, put it back in my pocket or in my camera bag. Can't fit in that one, and go home. How about that? Now that is a cheap accessory if I ever saw one. Now I don't have one here with me, but I'm sure a lot of you are thinking that if I attach that rope to a tent peg, hammer it into the ground, that's going to be a great solution as well, and it is. I just don't happen to have one here to demonstrate, but you get the drift. Now, one other option that you may have to fill up a bit of a bag or a shopping bag or a sandbag or something is simply that, sand. Have a look at that. Some people are by the beach or the ocean or gravel. It doesn't really matter. You can use whatever you want. There's dirt everywhere. You can use dirt if you want. Doesn't matter. As long as it has some weight to put in your bag to hang under that tripod, it will work. So of course, when you're close enough to the car, you can always make use of items that you already have with you that you're using anyway, such as this battery pack. Now this weighs a fair bit, and I use this to power time lapses and to power lens warmers and all sorts of other things. I've got a couple of them here. So if I've already got them and I'm already using them, I may as well make use of the weight that these things have to weigh down my tripod. Now, of course, there's always the good old favorite that everybody's been using for the last decade or more is the camera bag. Now, of course, we've got a camera bag with us and that has weight. The only thing I would caution against is having the camera bag swinging around, because the last thing you want is for the gust of wind to come along and swing that camera bag up against the leg of your tripod. That will be nothing but bad news. So without labouring the point too much, you can see that there are so many configurations that you can use this Velcro strips and the clamp. You can just put the clamp on like that, anywhere on that tripod. Then when you attach this other grunt strap, just Velcro remember, there is enormous amount of weight that you can put in a straight up and down vertical orientation to drag that tripod leg straight down. And that works a treat, an absolute treat. You can put one on each of these legs at whatever height you want. It doesn't matter where you put it, and it works just great. I guess it's just a matter of using a bit of ingenuity and coming up with some ideas using everyday, commonly used items that you can buy at the hardware store or even the supermarket. Even this, I've found this old bag strap. Now I can clip that onto the top of that setup that I just showed you, and I can extend the length of that and put some sort of weight on the bottom of that. It's something that's variable in length. It doesn't weigh anything. I've probably already got something like that in the side of my camera bag anyway, so I can use that. So I've just used simple items, Velcro straps, rubbish bags, rope, and oh, here's another one I want to show you. So I do tend to use this. This is not original, but a lot of people do this, but putting self-adhesive fluorescent tape on my tripods. And you can see I've got some here. Hopefully you can see that close up. And of course that just glows when it gets a bit of light on it. And there are occasions at night time when you're out there shooting and you can't find your tripod. You may have left it up on a hill somewhere, and these do reflect and they glow for a little while. Okay, so don't let the sunshine fool you. There's a massive storm over there, so I've got to get this finished before that arrives on the scene here. But there's another thing I want to show you here, another very low cost item which I use all the time, and I've possibly showed you this before, but that's this little gadget here. Now this is a cold shoe mount, and what I do is I put my remote trigger release in that. So I just push it down in there like that, tighten it up. Now that's flexible deliberately because sometimes I get my tripod down close to the ground and that hits the ground. So if having it so that it can move around like that, it's a little bit loose but it won't come off because it's screwed right in, means that it'll just push up. So, and that's from experience, let me tell you. But this just plugs into the side of the camera up here, and I can remotely control my camera, and you've seen me do that on most of my videos. Now, a lot of you are going to say to me, oh, you don't need that. All you need to do is just stick your remote control up on top of the hot shoe like that. Now, that is the clue to a potential problem here. It won't always be a problem. This is known as a hot shoe for a very good reason. There is current that goes through here, and on these triggers, and you can probably see that, hopefully see that there, that is also doubles up as a flash trigger. So it does actually accept current. So this is known as a cold shoe. Why is that? Because there's no current that goes through that. Now, why is that a problem? Well, I found with some cameras, and particularly mirrorless cameras, what happens is every time you attach it up here, this light, for example, stays on. Battery wears out very, very quickly. Sometimes also the exposure in the back of the camera changes because it thinks you have attached a flash to your camera. So there's certain settings in these mirrorless cameras that operate differently to DSLRs, and that's one of them. Now, if I put it down here on a cold shoe, there's no issue with that because there's no current going through. It doesn't think I've got a flash attached to my camera. And so there's no issue. The light doesn't stay on. The batteries last for weeks and weeks. And it's separate from here. And I've got the added benefit if I want to add another one up here and take a flash photograph. And I do that quite frequently when I'm doing selfies or group portrait shots. I do that quite often. So I've got this port free. So yeah, I think the cold shoe mount is a great idea, and I've been using it for years now, and I suppose I've just got used to using it that way. There are also different ways that you can attach them. You can see here I've got a hose clamp around this particular tripod, just loosely there. Remember, I like to have them loose so that they move, and it does exactly the same thing. It's just a different brand of tripod. Okay, now just quickly, I've got a couple more things I want to show you and then we'll be finished. One is this, and I bought this just recently, and it's a little plate with a bubble spirit level built in. Now, you're going to ask me, well, why did I need that? Because most tripods already have bubble levels built in. Well, the reason is because remember I said that this tripod has a bowl head, so it moves around. So that enables me not to have the tripod legs level. All I need is this center part to be level. So that's why I bought that little bubble. I can't even read what brand it is, but you buy these on eBay or Amazon or B&H, wherever you are in the world. It just sits on there like that. I can level that up however I want my tripod to be. So I can have it on an angle, I can have the legs all over the place, because sometimes when you're in the landscape at night time, your legs are not level. But this is a great way of getting your ball head or tripod or tracker or whatever it is that you've got on top there level, and I love it. Okay, so just one last thing I'd like to discuss with you. Now, you know I've talked a lot about trackers and mounts and tripods and everything else, but in this case, I have a mount on my tracker here which has an Arca Swiss plate, and you can see that. I can take it off and I can push it around this way, put it back on like that. And that's because I've got an L bracket on this particular camera. Now, one of the problems I have is that I have a number of cameras and they don't all have L plates. One of the things I don't like about L plates or L brackets on my camera is that I can't actually get into the remote ports easily at all. So I prefer not to use L brackets. Now, L brackets are generally Arca Swiss compatible only. Now, for most of my tripods, I have Manfrotto plates. So, for example, I have this on the bottom of most of my cameras. And if I want to quickly move to this camera to do some tracking, that doesn't fit very well. So what I've done is I've made up an adapter which simply has a Manfrotto plate on the top onto an Arca Swiss rail at the bottom, and then I can just stick that on there like that, and I've got a little rail because I can then put it wherever I want it to be without it necessarily, and get the weight distribution a bit better, because on a tracker everything is about weight distribution. So in this case, I can move that around to wherever I want it to be, do some adjustments with the ball head, and Bob's your uncle. It works really well. Now, with this particular camera, it's a lot harder to go into portrait orientation. So that's an issue that I've had to deal with, and I tend to go with the ball head just going down like that. It's probably not ideal, but I do have another solution in the works for that, but I'll talk about that in a future video. By the way, this ball head that I'm using here has 2 slots in it, if you can see that. So the 2 slots give me far more options when I want to lay the camera down to do some sort of pano or something like that. But when it's in a landscape orientation like it is here, that works really well. So all I need to do is just undo that, take that off, take the whole lot off, and get my other camera, stick it on like so, and quickly that is in place. So there you go. These little plates, and I've homemade them. Nothing complicated about these, because you can go to places like B&H or Amazon and these things cost a fortune to buy, but I've done a homemade job. It's really quite simple to make these things. There's nothing complicated about them. I've actually got them going both ways. I've got a Manfrotto on the bottom, Arca Swiss on the top, and so I can just swap and change my cameras depending on whatever system I want to use at the time. All right, so there you go. Look, I don't think there's anything groundbreaking or particularly radical about any of these solutions that I've showed to you today. But you know, for me, it just makes my life so much easier. And I'm hoping it does the same for you without costing you very many dollars at all. All right, so until I see you in the next video, the rain's coming again, I've just made it. I'll look forward to that. You have a fantastic week. I'll see you later.